Welcome to Nkosi Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Welcome to Nkosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice. Lead from within. My name is Nomsa Clara Mncube. I'm the founder of Hope Spring Eternal Introduction Agency and the founder of Nkosi Talk Shows. So today we'll be talking about getting a grip on loans and credit cards. So loans and credit cards can be very necessary for the survival of the individual in providing the essential needs that cannot be provided for simple on a monthly income. Such needs may include the necessity of having a car, a house, a college fund, or any comparatively big investment requiring funds. Get all the info you need as we go along. Hopefully, it's going to help you to actually get a grip. Loans basically are an advancement of monetary funds that it will allow you, when you borrow a loan, you will allow the individual to make an investment of choice, where the initial loan amount plus interest calculated will have to be paid back to the loan source over a set period of time. So everything, when I'm saying it sounds very simple, and it's very attracting as well. And but the problem usually arises when the individual is, for one reason or another, unable to pay off the agreed sum due to the loan taken. Failing to make such a payment can cause a lot of problems and even be considered a criminal offense, which has jail sentence penalty. So what are the basics? Basically, for taking out a loan, the individual should ensure, basically, when you take a loan, you should first ensure the reason for the loan is a viable one, and if the payment is both secure and consistent. Most adult any individual go through much of their working life paying for a car and a housing loan, which usually spend a good part of their productive years, but are seen as good investment as the items are considered essential to human comfort and existence. Loans should be gotten from legal sources such as bank, government loans, government agencies, finance houses, and such other legal establishment. The secure loan requires some of collateral to be provided for by the borrower, which will be withdrawn by the lender in the event that there is a default on the loan repayment. The unsecured loan is given on the merits of the individual applying for the loan. But the same principles is applied where, upon default of payment, the items acquired from the loan given out, such as property or vehicle, then become the property of the lender. They are all popular style loans that have quite a few similarity, but are still very individual and different in their reason for having the loans in place. The following are some points that will shed some basically light of the three different shaped types of loan shape named and big interest. So we're going to start with the big interest. Car title loans. These are supposedly the loans that require the last amount of background check and usually quite easy to acquire. The loans are given out on a based on the laser amount of the title, the paid vehicle, meaning the loan amount given would probably be only 60% or 70% at the base of actual value of the vehicle at the time. So the interest charged is also usually quite high, and the repayment period is significantly short. All in all types of loan is usually taken out in a very desperate circumstances or where funds needed are small. Getting an actual loan from the banks would not be visible or easy. And then we have payday loans. Payday loans is another very costly type of loan as that it requires interest charge are comparatively high. Basically, the borrower will write a check or a legal promissory note in the amount of borrow with the agreed interest added on, and this is to be held by the lender until the agreed date where the documents are used to cash in the amount stated. This is a quick and seemingly easy way of acquiring cash when needed. However, the interest charges are often the reason why people eventually get caught in a vicious circle of never-ending borrowing scenario. Highest high interest loan, they are usually loans that are given to individual that have a hard time um, securing loan through the better channels of loan acquirement because of the design of this loan, which can be rather intimidating. It is usually sought by individuals who may already have a very poor credit rating. This will cause the lender to secure the payment any way possible. That's high interest charge. And we have home equity loans and mortgage. Basically, both types of these of loan requires the collateral of property. However, they are slightly different between the two. The mortgage style loan is usually where the home purchased is used as collateral against the loan, where areas the home equity is where the exist property is used to collaterate to take a second loan. Both are legally entities that are fairly compatible means of acquiring funds. So the home equity loan is also known as a second mortgage. It is usually divided into two categories, which are the fixed rate loan and the home equity lines of the credit. So the fixed rate loan provided a simple one-time payment to the borrower, which is repaid over an agreed set period of time with the addition of the interest changes added on. The payment amount and interest charge remain fixed throughout the payment. As for the home equity lines of credit, it functions much like that of a credit card – advances. So you're just gonna have to decide which loan is good for you. The amount extent for the loan is actually fixed, or the interest and repayment are not fixed and are calculated according to the current rates available. The payment are also only charged on the amount withdrawn and only the whole sum advance if it is not used in its entirety, thus creating a simple and easy source of cash. The mortgage loan is also fairly simple and straightforward style of acquiring funds to secure the purchase of property. The lender's risk is comparatively low as the amount lent are usually lesser and percentage to the actual value of the property. So the borrower will also be vetted for his or her suitability and credit rating history before the loans are given on. In this scenario, the lenders is totally covered. In the event of default on the part of borrower, the lender is able to collect the outstanding amount in the form of the property. So the credit cards. So the credit cards are often abused and misunderstood by the individual possessing them. And this is eventually leads out to out of control situation that brings out detrimental effects. So why do we have abusive credit card? The following are basically when people abuse when it comes to credit cards usage. You have to learn to read the fine print that depicts the repayments requiring of its use. That is very, very important. Some people don't read the fine print. Credit cards terms and condition can be very confusing, and the initial existence of using such as facilities and seem very easy accessible is very deceiving indeed. So you can access a credit card. Is sometimes I go shopping, I leave home, I enter any shop, mostly shops, and I want to do shopping. Then I get offered a credit card. Would you like a store card? It sounds very easy, very, very easy, but it is very, very deceiving. And due to debts, fees, interest rates, and any other charges should be noted and adhered to. This will also help the individual to address any discrepancies that may occur during the course of using the credit card facilities. Immediately addressing any item that seems to be unusual activities on the card is also something that should be done immediately upon detection. So failing to make these inquiries would result in the credit company refusing to consider or striking such payment from the bill, and individual will then be liable for the said payment. So credit cards are basically often have promotions and special offers. And while some of these are really quite beneficial to the individual, there is always the danger of getting carried away with making such purchases simple because there is no visible monetary impact at the time of the purchase. So to be basically, this will only be noted weeks later, and in most cases, people are shocked at amount spent. Making it a habit of paying the credit card bills on time will also be one way of avoiding unnecessary interest and fees being charged or added on the already outstanding balance to be paid. In actual fact, all the credit card interest rates are high when comparing to other sources of money, advancing facilities. However, most people don't realize this, or they don't want to realize the high rate simple because of the easy access to the credit card provide to making desired purchases. Getting carried away is one of the very, very real dangers of credit cards usage. Therefore, there is a need to actually actively source for a credit card that provides lower interest rates by comparison. I don't like credit cards myself. I really don't like credit cards. Uh, I took for business. I took a credit card for Capital One on Tap. Capital on Tap. Yes, Capital on Tap. It sounds very nice and very easy. And what's on the print is actually different to when you start using the card. The card has a very, very, very high interest. Has a very, very high interest, and it's for business. It's nice to use it. So I had to close it. I had to close it because it sounds so much. Sometimes they say they give you 50 grand, they can put 50 grand on the card, or sometimes, but mine was only 2,500. But when I started using it, then I realized that actually whatever, not what I thought it would be when it comes to that credit card. Basically, I had to not cancel the card, stop the card, because what they do is you have to pay off the card and then you cancel it. So I had to stop the card and ask them not to be used, even no matter how desperate I am, not to be actually used. And so that was the decision. I'm not a big fan of credit cards, even if it's for business. I'm not a big fan because that money is easy to acquire the money from a credit card. It's easy to acquire money from a loan company. But when it comes to paying it back, it's actually it's not fun. So I'm not a really I'm not a big fan. So the interest rate charged on the amount reflected by a credit card purchase or usage will eventually feature very significant on the interest rate charged to the individual if it is said amount are not paid for fully by the due date. So when you take a credit card, you have to be somebody that pays money on time. You have to pay them on time because the interest can be very, very costly. So you have to pay it on time. So when purchasing rather considerable, it is often harder than imagined to clear full amount by the expected date on the statement of account. And sometimes these credit company, like they have special offers. You go to a shop, you want to buy something, you're in a rush, and somebody will say, oh, would you like a store card? They say to everyone, would you like a store card? To encourage people to get into debt. So then they'll be like, no, it will take about 10 minutes to apply. So then that is like if you didn't have the money, but if you want the clothes in the shop, we can give you a store card, and you basically go and borrow money and buy the clothes that you need. So that's what they're saying. And therefore, taking the trouble to source for credit cards that provide a lower finances charge may come into hand in such circumstances. So you have to be careful when you actually apply for a credit card, because the charges can be calculated to much more in favor of the individual if this is what at all realistically possible. So whereby the individual will end up paying much less than other conventional interest rate payment would be. So however, even this has some rather complicated connotations to it, where it actually fact there is a tangible positiveness for paying the finance charges anyway. In this scenario, the individual is really simple paying for the convenience and having the outstanding amount difference. So, and I remember before I had a credit card, I never had a credit card. I was in the UK for how many years? 10 years before. I've been in here for 17 years. Few years ago, I didn't have a credit card, and apparently, if you don't have a credit card, your credit rate can be really bad. Even if you don't owe anyone, it can be really bad because you've never really had a credit card or owe anybody. So you have to owe somebody and be able to pay them back, apparently, and for you to have the good credit rating. And you should also be wary of some credit cards that offer lower interest rate, also offer lower minimum payment, which is initially seen. It seems an exciting future, but upon proper calculations, the individual could possibly end up paying even more rather than a conventional credit card. So you have to be very, very, very careful when it comes to credit card, and just have a look at what you are paying. And one of the most drastic and dramatic way of doing this is the recommendation to have the card cut up or returned to the issuing patients, which usually the banking institutions that pray for the weaknesses of individual. So you can apply for credit card, maybe, and then just cut it off, not having it. And this, of course, is an extremely measure and usually one of the harder to do but very necessary when the amount charged to the card are phenomenal high, and there is a really not variable means to available to clear the amounts in the near future. So you can do that when it comes to credit card, and also try to cut down on your spending if you are somebody who is struggling. However, there are some basically tips that can be used in order to create some element of discipline when making use of credit card. And following basically that I'm going to give you is keeping the credit card out of easy success access, making sure that is one way to limit its use, and leaving the credit card at home when going shopping. So it is a good idea. Um, it will help individual realize the enormity of the purchase power that has been surveyed. So if you somebody who loves shopping, myself basically, I love shopping, mostly clothing and shoes. I love handbags, and I love different things. But the problem with me is even if I carry my credit card, it will be hard to use it because when I get to a shop, for me to buy a dress, it will take me a long time. Unless if I just find the one, the dress that you walk into the shop, you're like, wow, this is made for me. So just in case I find the one, yes, I'll buy it. But sometimes it takes me days to make a decision on how to buy a dress or even shoes. So you have to make sure that if you are somebody who can't control themselves, just leave the credit card at home. And it will also give an individual some insight to possible frivolous spending that has been practiced as a norm previously. So if you leave your credit card, it will help you basically control whatever spending problems you have, And without the use of the credit card facilities, the individual is now forced to make purchasing using cash, and this can be really disciplining exercise for in the individual, and it helps to exercise control. Basically, for me, what I've trained myself is I have to, if I want to go shopping, if I go and see like if there are special offers for something, I'll buy it. If I know that this is actually really real cheap, I'll buy it. It's fine. But big purchases, I have to think about it. I will not just go to a shop basically and just buy something big. Desmond O'Connor, when I met Irene Felix, and she did a talk from Dragon's Den, she did a talk. And one of her talk, she was wearing a black jacket, just blazer. Of course, it's designer. And she mentioned the price of the blazer, that the blazer was £4,000. And so she said before, because she had before she everything was fine, and then she had problems with her fellow friends from Dragon's Den, so she got in trouble financially. Basically, they basically destroyed her. But then she said before that she used to go to a shop and she look at something, 5 grand, 6 grand, 10 grand, just a piece of clothing, and she just pick it up. But when she went through financial problems, one of her awakening was basically for her, basically it was to stop buying just a piece of clothing for £10,000. So she was like, I had to discipline myself. And that jacket that she was wearing, it was a blazer just like mine, like this, but she said it cost her £4,000. And one of her the most thing that basically really got me was when she was like declaring that I will never spend £4,000 on a blazer again after going through financial difficulties. And it made me realize that when somebody who is a millionaire, who is worth millions and millions, and standing on stage and saying that I'll never buy a blazer for £4,000, because at the time when you have money, uh, basically it's exciting to just buy whatever you want. But when she went through financial difficulty, it was when she realized that actually she's never going to spend her money through that piece of clothing. So for me, to me, that was to hear somebody saying that. I think that I agree with her. I I see clothes like sometimes like the clothes that I like, I love £500, the websites. And you know what I do? I register my email. When they have sales, they send me an emails. And those clothes like dresses for £500, sometimes I get them for £50 or £40 or £30. It depends. When they have really, really sales, I just buy them cheap because I get bored with clothes. I won't spend any expensive, buy any expensive clothes, uh, because to me it's not necessary. It is necessary for other people, but to me it's not. If I wear a dress once, sometimes I don't want to wear it. So there's no point for me to go and spend uh, thousands of pounds if I'm not gonna wear that something again, or if I'm gonna wear it, but not really. So there's no point to actually do that. But to other people, there is a point. Some people basically love uh, spending money when they have it. They love to spend it. So for me, whether I have the money, I still don't find it necessary. I rather give it to a children in need, those who need, who wants the money, those who are really, really in need of money, I rather do that instead of purchasing something expensive. I don't mind purchasing something expensive for my house because I know that I'm gonna sit on it, I'm gonna use it each and every day. But the clothing I get bought, so that is a different story. So without these of the credit card facilities, the individual is now forced to make purchasing using cash. So if you don't have a credit cards or you can't afford to pay for credit card, then you'll be forced to actually pay by cash. Seeing cash is actually becoming laser as the purchasing exercise commences. Will keep um, frivolous purchasing from being part of the shopping experience, and making a conscious effort to scrutinize previous spending habits and actually purchases being made will help the individual better understanding where the money was going, and to eventually learn to avoid such establishment in the quest of curb and unnecessary spending. So sometimes you have to work on your habit to actually spend money when it's necessary, and avoid planned outings that revolve around shopping sprees or at shopping friendly locations. If you don't have the money, where there is no temptation to shops, there is no unnecessary buying, positively contributing to the effort to curb using credit cards. So sometimes I basically I don't mind going window shopping, even if I'm not gonna spend money. I don't mind. I have disciplined myself. I really don't mind, and I basically most of the time nowadays I shop online. So when I go to a shop, basically I find it is a nightmare for me, because if I go to a shop, that means I have to be out there all day buying, looking for clothing. But I do get on the website, their website that I trust. I've been using them for a long time, and if I want to buy clothing, I just go online because I know they sell nice clothes. And then there are some that friends and family recommend website, and when I actually go to those websites, sometimes the clothing, when I receive them, um, the clothes, the material don't come as I expect. So the dress or whatever buying will be looking good online, but actually when you receive it, it's a different story. So sometimes you will get that when it comes to buying online. But there are some websites that I know the quality. My dresses, basically I buy from a little black dress. A little black dress, they sell beautiful clothes, quality, and they're expensive. But as like I said, I register myself. When they have special offers, they always let me know, and I go and look online and I just buy. So sometimes, so how do you stay on top of your charge card balances and negotiations with the company? And sometimes in the quest to try to clear the seemingly endless credit cards commitment, there is a possibility of trying to negotiate with the cards companies to come to some kinds of acceptable settlement scenarios. Like during lockdown, I myself, my business, I didn't make money for a year. So then I had to come to some negotiations with the business credit card companies in business loans. So I had to come and negotiate. So though this may not be an easy basically course of action where the results are easily experienced, there is certainly the fair chance of finally bringing the endless bills to some kind of closure. So basically, if you pay off a credit card, just close it. Basically, me, I'm not a big fan of a credit card at all. and keep the credit card for business, but the personal use, I actually prefer to use the cash. If I don't have cash, that means I can buy. So that's how I basically look at my life. That if I don't have cash, why would I go and borrow money to buy shoes? Why would I go and apply for a credit card to buy shoes? Why would I go and apply for a credit card to buy a dress? I shouldn't do that. So to me, if I don't have money, I don't have money. So that means I can't buy. So that is my actually principles. If there is a possibility of being able to clear entire amount in a lump sum payment, then negotiations basically to cut the interest calculated to be paid can be, you can try it. These lump sum payments can be usually be broken up into 2 or 3 huge payments, where the principal sum of the possible new negotiated interest can be paid off. So there's also another possibility of approaching the credit card establishment to consider a proposal where the bank agrees to eliminate or lower the interest rates incurred to help ease the burden of the individual until some financial stability is achieved of the individual, until in some cases assessing the fees such as late fees and over limit charges, and may also be requested to be waived. However, the trade-off would be more likely. Basically, the credit card questions will be frozen, sometimes it will be cancelled or suspended for a specific period of time. And their debt management program, in this scenario, the individual will have to seek the expert advice from some source trained for the purchase of helping people better handle and sort out their debt ridden situation. This is, of course, a better option than having to deal with the mounting debts with no apparent relief. There are groups that provide this service for free or for a very nominal charge. So you can get in touch with them, and there are disadvantages of being in debt. Credit card can be an individual best friends or a worst nightmare when the cards are used in a controlled and wise fashion. Then there is a very little likelihood of it becoming a financial burden to the individual. However, when used without caution, the resulting scenario can be detrimental both mentally and physically. So, what are the warnings? Being in debt, especially credit card debt, is sometimes very hard to come out. It's very hard to come out of once due to the style of the interest charge. Thus, the never ending cycle can really be stressful and often consuming, leaving the affected individual very little room for other things that may require the individual indulgence. And it may leave you being unable effectively to contribute even a minimum payment due. And we will also create the negative assessment on the individual credit ratings or credit scores, which is vital to a future investment opportunities. Another very common practice that the most individuals are unaware of is that the credit card companies, upon evaluation, may increase the interest rate charges to non-performing accounts. These accounts that shown no significant reductions in the amount owing due to the fact that repayment are less than required. It will allow the credit card company to now recognize such accounts as credit risk, therefore increase the interest rate charges. Why do they increase the interest rate charges if you are at risk? No idea. Another disadvantage of being in debt is the health issues that it can bring about. Constantly worry about how best to clear the amount of debt will keep the individual in a perpetually stress-filled mindset. So that is the basically disadvantage of being in debt. And one of the main disadvantage of being in debt is the constraints creates when individual is given an opportunity that cannot be tapped into due to the debt-ridden situation. Such opportunities may not come by very often, which makes it very more difficult to let them pass by with grabbing on and capitalization on them. Do your homework. Do all you can to stay out of debt if you can. If you have to apply basically for a store card just because you want to buy a dress, for me, I don't see it's necessary. If you are going out with your friends, just wear whatever you have. Don't go to a store card and say, I'm going to apply to buy a new dress. You're borrowing that money for shoes. Like myself, I have loads of pairs of shoes under my bed, basically. And I've got loads of clothes. How many wardrobes? My clothes, 2 wardrobes. And sometimes, if I really I want to buy clothes, I have to buy it. If I want to, that's when I have to buy. But sometimes it's not necessary for me, like to go to a store and say, I'm going to borrow money to buy clothes. I still have to, like when I was growing up in Africa, I didn't have 2 wardrobes for clothing. So for me, basically, I find it, if you want to go out, there's always for that occasion, you can always find something for that occasion, whatever you want to use for um, for that special occasion. If you look at your clothes, you will find something to wear instead of start looking at your friends and you comparing your life with your friends. In that moment, that situation in their life is okay. But if you know that your life is not okay, don't go and borrow money to actually go out, because you go out spending money, come back, that outing is done. Or sometimes some people borrow money to actually go and drink, and they just use a credit card to go out for drink, for beer and buying a cigarette. I don't drink, I don't smoke, but what I would suggest for those who drinks or who smoke, if you know you don't have money, you're struggling, you might as well find somebody, NHS, they help for free to quit drinking. Just quit drinking completely because it is expensive. I don't drink, I can go out and spend less money. So, but if you drink, you smoke, and you know that you're struggling, might as well get help. Quit smoking, quit drinking. Um, and that is a habit that you have to work on. Because if you can't afford it, then it means that you have to do some life changing. It's very important. Instead of having health problems just because you want to. That's what happens basically. If you can't afford something and you're forcing yourself to borrow money to go and afford it, then you end up with the health problems. You because of worry, and you end up with so many healthy issues, depression, anxiety, whatever you call it. So for me, basically, I live a very simple life. Very simple. My life is very simple. I go to the website. I love clothes. I love shoes, I love handbags. Like I have loads of earphones, like gaming earphones. They're so expensive, but guess what? I test products. I pay sometimes earphones that are really expensive. I test them for £20, and so you can register to test the products. It's fine, and because you get bored, you buy something very expensive and then you get bored of it. And so I took Irene Felix's advice when she was talking at Desmond O'Connor's business events, and I was like, I'm not gonna spend money, because she said she didn't have problems financially, it was easy. Walk into a shop, you see a dress, £20,000, just buy it. But then when she was faced and going through the meditation and everything, she didn't see a point of doing that. So that's what I do. I go to a shop. Mostly I buy online. There are some website I really love, where I buy really beautiful clothes. I just register my email. When there are special offers, they'll just email me, and then I look on their website. You may find that I find like a dress for £400, £50. It's on sale. I buy it. It's cheap, and I'm gonna wear it maybe a few times and I'm got bored. Sometimes I buy something, or my sister, they be like, oh, I like that dress, and I'm like, do you want it? Then I give it to them. So I might as well not spend too much money. But we are different. Some people love, they feel good when they are wearing something like for £200, £500, £1,000. They feel good about it. But for me, I rather give it to church. I rather give it to that kind of money. I rather give it to children in need. So, but people are different. So just spend money. What I'll leave you is, if you really basically, even if you are not in trouble financially, try to practice a habit of, because nothing stays the same. Try to practice a habit of not buying a piece of clothing for a ridiculous amount of money, because things do change. They do change a lot. I remember um, back home, my stepdad comes from a wealthy family, and we used to do whatever we wanted to do financially, like things. But he had principles in place that if you want something, you have to work for it. And at that moment, things were good, but then things changed, because things do change. They don't stay the same. When I came to the UK, things changed. He died, and he was actually somebody who had basically, so when things change, somebody who takes over the business, it doesn't mean that when that person is not there, the business might change. So things do change. So you have to be aware. You have to spend your money without fear. Just enjoy it, but I have principles in place that it might, by buying this, is it gonna bring me interest? Buy houses. Houses will bring you interest. You can rent them out. Expensive houses, or rent them out, you get interest back. But if you buy some piece of clothing, for a jacket for £20,000 or £100,000, to me, it's a waste of money. So, but if you can afford it, it's cool. But nothing stays the same. So that's what I will leave you guys with. So if you want to get in touch with Ngozi Talk Shows, you can go to our website, www.hsia. Get in touch with me. I'll connect you with the speakers you want to connect with. And if you are looking for love, obviously you can go to Hope Springs Talent Introduction Agency website. And if you're watching this video later, please share some love, and press some heart button and share some love with your loved ones. And please do follow us on YouTube. And God bless you and live with grace.